Here's a rewritten version, keeping the same length, structure, and details, with the wording polished. My name is Olivia Conway, and I'm 35 years old. My niece Harper was turning 6, and my sister Vanessa had rented a small event hall for the party, decorated with balloons and a table overflowing with pink and gold everything. My daughter Freya, who is 11, had been counting down the days for 2 weeks straight, because Vanessa had promised her something special. "I've got a surprise for you," Vanessa told Freya on the phone. "A princess makeover, just for you, since you're the oldest of the girls here." Freya squealed with excitement. She loves anything that makes her feel grown up, and she has always adored her hair, long and wavy, falling past her shoulders, the one thing that earns her endless compliments at school. I should have asked more questions. I should have asked what exactly a princess makeover meant, who was doing it, and where it would happen. But it was a child's birthday party, hosted by my own sister, in a rented hall full of other parents. What could possibly go wrong? I dropped Freya off around noon and stayed for the first hour, chatting with my mother, who had flown in for the party, and a few of Vanessa's friends. Around 1 o'clock, Vanessa led Freya and 2 of the younger cousins into a side room, saying they were getting their royal treatment, and that parents weren't allowed to peek, since it was meant to be a surprise reveal. I laughed it off, assuming it was glitter, maybe some face paint, a tiara, the usual party stuff. I went back to the main hall, helped set up the cake table, and lost track of time chatting with my mother about work. It must have been nearly 40 minutes before the side room door opened again. Freya came out crying, not soft crying, not the giggly kind you'd expect from a silly makeover gone wrong. She was sobbing, her whole body trembling, both hands pressed against the sides of her head as if she were trying to hide something. I rushed to her and gently pulled her hands away. That's when I saw it. Her hair, her beautiful long hair that had reached past her shoulders that morning, was gone. Hacked off unevenly. Some sections barely cleared her ears, others jutted out at odd angles, as though whoever did it had grabbed a pair of craft scissors with no plan whatsoever. This wasn't a haircut. It was damage. I turned to Vanessa, who stood near the side room door wearing a strange, tight smile, as if waiting for me to say something. "What did you do?" My voice came out flat and cold, in a tone I barely recognized as my own. Vanessa just shrugged, as if this were nothing. She wanted a makeover, so we gave her one. "It's just hair, Olivia. It grows back." I looked past her into the side room and saw the evidence scattered across the floor, long strands of Freya's hair, clumps piled near a folding chair, a pair of kitchen scissors resting on a paper plate like some prop from a nightmare. My mother walked over then, and for one foolish second, I actually believed she was coming to comfort Freya. Instead, she studied my daughter's ruined hair, tilted her head as if appraising a piece of furniture, and said the words I will never forget for as long as I live, "Well, now she won't be stealing all the attention from Harper on her own birthday." She said it lightly, almost cheerfully, as though my 11-year-old's butchered hair were a fair trade for making sure her favorite grandchild got enough compliments at her own party. I didn't scream. I didn't cry, not in that moment. Something inside me went very quiet and very still, the way it does right before you make a decision you know you can't undo. I knelt down, wrapped Freya in my arms, told her she was safe, and said we were leaving right now. I picked her up, even though she's really getting too big for that, and carried her out of the hall without another word to my sister or my mother. Behind me, I heard Vanessa calling my name, heard my mother mutter something about me being dramatic. I didn't turn around. I buckled Freya into the car, and she cried the entire ride home, asking over and over why Aunt Vanessa would do this, why Grandma would say something so cruel. I didn't have an answer for her that night. I just held her hand at every red light and told her I loved her exactly as she was, hair or no hair. We got home, and I sat with Freya for hours, brushing out the uneven ends as best I could, trying to smooth the worst of the damage with kitchen shears while she stared at her reflection with a grief I never wanted to see on her face. I put her to bed around 10 o'clock and sat alone in the kitchen afterward, phone in hand, staring at 11 missed calls between my mother and my sister. That night, I made a decision I didn't share with anyone, not even Freya. I switched my phone to silent and went to bed. I had no idea what the next morning would bring. I never imagined that by sunrise, both of them would be standing on my porch, pounding on my front door as if the house were on fire. I woke to the sound of fists hammering against my door, so loud, so relentless, that for a moment I thought something was truly wrong. Like an emergency, like a fire. It was 7:14 in the morning. I checked my phone first, 23 missed calls now between my mother and Vanessa, along with a string of texts ranging from angry pleading to outright accusations that I was overreacting and punishing the whole family over one small mistake. I pulled on a sweater and walked downstairs. Through the front window, I could see both of them standing on my porch, my mother still in the coat she'd worn the night before, as if she hadn't even gone home, and Vanessa pacing behind her with her arms crossed. I opened the door but stood in the frame, not stepping aside, not inviting them in. My mother started talking before I even said good morning, her voice sharp and rehearsed, as if she'd practiced this speech the entire drive over. "You can't just disappear with my granddaughter and ignore our calls, Olivia. That's not how this family works." I looked at her for a long moment. "The way this family works," I said, "is that you humiliate my daughter, damage her hair without my permission, and then justify it by saying she was stealing attention from a 6-year-old. That's how this family works, apparently. Not anymore." My mother's face flickered, just for a second, as though she hadn't expected me to say it back to her so plainly. Vanessa jumped in, her voice rising. "It was a joke that went too far, okay? I didn't tell them to cut it that short. One of the girls I hired got carried away. I already talked to her about it." That detail hit me like a slap. "One of the girls you hired," I repeated. "You paid a stranger to take scissors to my daughter's hair without asking me, without asking Freya what she actually wanted. And you're calling it a joke?" Vanessa had no answer for that. My mother tried again, insisting I was being unreasonably cold about a haircut, that hair grows back, that I needed to let this go for the sake of the family. I felt something shift in me, the same stillness from the night before, except now it had sharpened into clarity instead of shock. "Freya cried herself to sleep last night," I said. "She kept asking me why her own grandmother thought hurting her was acceptable. I didn't have an answer, because there isn't one. So no, I'm not letting this go, and I'm not pretending this was small." My mother's expression hardened, and she said the sentence that told me everything I needed to know about where this was headed: "You're choosing a haircut over your own family, Olivia. Think about what that says about you." I let out a short, disbelieving laugh, because even now, standing on my porch after what they'd done, she was still making herself the victim. "No," I said. "I'm choosing my daughter, every single time, over anyone who thinks it's acceptable to hurt her and call it a joke." I told them both, calmly and clearly, that they wouldn't be seeing Freya again until they gave her a real apology, one that acknowledged what actually happened instead of minimizing it, and that any future contact with my daughter would go through me first. No more surprise makeovers. No more unsupervised side rooms at parties. Vanessa argued that I was being extreme, that this would ruin Harper's memory of her own birthday if the family fractured over it. I told her that Harper's birthday wasn't what traumatized anyone, the scissors were. My mother tried once more, softer this time, claiming she only wanted what was best for the family, that she'd apologize to Freya if it meant everyone could move past this. But I could hear it in her voice, this wasn't real remorse. It was damage control, an attempt to smooth things over so life could return to normal for her. I told her that if she truly wanted to make things right, an apology wasn't a favor she did to repair her image. It needed to come from genuinely understanding what she'd done wrong. And until she could say plainly that what happened to Freya was cruel and unacceptable, not just hair, there was nothing left to discuss on my porch. I closed the door gently but firmly, and stood in my hallway listening to them knock a few more times before their footsteps finally faded off the porch and down the driveway. I turned around and found Freya standing at the top of the stairs in her pajamas, watching me with wide eyes, her uneven hair pushed back from her face. "Are they gone?" she asked quietly. "Yeah," I told her, walking up to meet her. and they're not coming back until they understand that what they did to you was wrong. She hugged me tightly, and for the first time since the party, I saw something like relief settle over her, as if she finally understood that someone would protect her without hesitation, without excuses, without asking her to simply get over it for the sake of keeping the peace. That morning, we took her to a proper stylist, who turned the damage into a short, sharp pixie cut that actually suited her. And this time, when she looked in the mirror, she smiled instead of cried. Some family members aren't safe just because they're family. It's a lesson I never wanted my daughter to learn this way, but I'm grateful, at least, that she learned it with me standing beside her instead of alone.